What's up, guys? We are back with a full slate of MLB playoff action here on Tuesday, October 1st. We have a great video for you today going in depth on all of these games on the sides, the totals, and we're even getting into some player props. So if you want to win all of your bets today, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in here every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content. You can now also sign up for a channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members get exclusive early access to all NFL and college football videos and get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that badge next to your comments absolutely warms my heart. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering MLB, NCAA football, UFC, and the NFL, with NHL season coming this week. This is one of the best times of the year to be in the mix with so many sports going on. Click the link in the description if you're interested in signing up and also to join our free email list to get the occasional free or premium picks straight to your inbox and to track our new $100,000 to $10,000 challenge, which is going on right now. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got the Detroit Tigers going on the road to take on the Houston Astros. The Tigers found their way into the playoffs this season, guys. An 86-76 record was good enough to just barely get the job done. They had a fairly easy time there. I mean, getting to feast off of a team like the Chicago White Sox, also in the AL Central, definitely had to help them out a little bit along the way, but this is a team that played really well down the stretch and had one of the best pitchers in the MLB there to, that was somebody they could count on every 5 days to just go out there and put them in a fantastic position to win the game. And that guy is their starter here, guys. It's Tarik Skubal. 18-4 on the season, a 2.39 ERA. Clearly one of the best pitchers in the major leagues this season. Absolutely no doubt about that. He finished tied for first in wins, first all on his own there in strikeouts, second in WHIP, second in ERA. This dude has been an absolute monster out there over his last 5 starts. Very important games there down the stretch for the Tigers. We saw them only go 3-2 over his starts, but guys, it was not his fault. He gave up 0 earned runs to Tampa Bay in his last start, 1 earned run at Kansas City in his second to last start. Over his last 5 starts, guys, he hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in any of them. He struck out at least 6 in each one of those games, at least 7 in 3 out of 4, and 8 in his other game besides that. So the dude has been absolutely dealing down the stretch this season, no doubt about it. You probably don't really need me to go on a super deep dive right here about Tarik Skubal's season. It has been absolutely bonkers. The dude has been amazing. So what we really want to look at is what he's done this year against the Houston Astros. Unfortunately for us, his last start against them wasn't, he hasn't pitched against them since back in mid-June. So yeah, June, 14th, he was pitching at Houston. Didn't have the greatest time, especially by his standards, guys. I mean, 6 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs. All of them were earned runs. He gave up a home run in that game. He walked 1, only struck out 2. Just not his best stuff. Did not have a very good time. It was a game we eventually saw the Tigers lose 4-0. So a bit of a rough patch there. He had 2 kind of bad games back to back. So maybe he wasn't fully healthy. There wasn't any injury report stuff there, but you never know. Guys can have little nagging things throughout the season. So maybe he was a little bit banged up, but we have more reason to think maybe this is a team he could possibly struggle against, because back on May 11th, his first start of the season against the Houston Astros, he didn't have an amazing time in that game by his standards either. 6 1/3 innings, he gave up 7 hits, only 2 earned runs in that one, no home runs, but he walked 2, struck out 7, so not a terrible outing, and we did see the Tigers get the win in that game, but giving up 7 hits, I mean, that wasn't against an Astros team that was killing it at that point in the season either. A little bit concerning, so it seems like there are definitely some guys on this Houston roster that, see the ball pretty well against Skubal. Definitely something that is a little bit of a concern here for him. Maybe not the easiest matchup for him here in the first round. So in terms of their starter, we have a couple of small reasons to be a little bit worried here for Detroit. But guys, in terms of their bullpen, I don't have a ton of concerns. They're 5th in the majors, finished things up 5th in the majors with a bullpen ERA of 3.55. absolutely elite stuff. This is a very, very good bullpen. They did have some early season struggles, but they've rounded into form for sure. And this is a very, very solid unit that's coming in here, to start off the playoffs. And that is a big, big deal. Having a good bullpen. Maybe the hope would be for Detroit that they're not going to have to use too many guys out of that bullpen in this game, but it's definitely possible. We're expecting Skubal to maybe have a little bit rougher of a time. We'll see what happens out there, but this bullpen is definitely a good one. In terms of their offense, what do we expect to see from the Detroit Tigers right here? Well, guys, they actually didn't have the smoothest end to their season. They actually lost a couple games there down the stretch. They weren't games that they needed to win, obviously, but losing 2 in a row to the White Sox, not the best look, but obviously this was a team taking it easy as they cruised into the playoffs there. But yeah, maybe not the hottest hitting team in the majors. They finished things up 19th in the MLB in runs scored, 24th in batting average, batting .234 as a team, 29th in the majors in on-base percentage. Offense just wasn't the main strength of this team. It's not to say they were, like a horrendous offensive team, but yeah, just not a team you can count on night in and night out to put up a ton of runs. They finished the season off with a plus 40 run differential, which is fine, not amazing, obviously. Not one to write home about, but we'll see what they can do in this matchup. I mean, looking at their, roster in general, I mean, Riley Green, he's a good hitter, no doubt about that, but this just isn't a roster that's really loaded with a ton of sluggers. So we'll see what they can do here going up against the Houston Astros, who come into this game, guys. They got off to a rough start to their season. They were 10 plus games behind Seattle there in the AL West. They managed to claw their way all the way back and win the AL West by 3.5 games over the hapless Mariners. So that was a bit of a tough season for Seattle, but I think they'll take it. They're a young team. They'll bounce back. But Houston comes into this game probably feeling pretty good about their 88-73 record. They're going to be hitting the ball in this one to Framber Valdez, who comes into this game. He's had a very good season, a 15-7 record overall, a 2.91 ERA. That's 6th in the majors, and not a huge strikeout guy, but definitely very respectable numbers for him over the course of the season. And he finished the season off pretty well. He did have a kind of a questionable start his last time out against Seattle, giving up 8 hits and 3 earned runs over 5 2/3 innings. But that was a win for the Astros, and not a horrendous performance from him by any stretch of the imagination. He had a very good start back on the 18th against the Padres. He's a guy that's done some good stuff, and he haven't had a great start back on the 6th against the Arizona Diamondbacks, one of the scariest offensive teams in baseball. Really, really sad we're not getting to see them in the playoffs this year. But what we really want to look at for him here is what he's done against the Detroit Tigers this season. Unfortunately, we don't have very much recent data on that. The only time he faced the Tigers this year was back in early May. May 10th, he went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits and 2 earned runs in a 5-2 win there pitching at Detroit. So he's getting to pitch at home in this one. That's got to feel good. And he's a guy that comes into this game throwing the ball relatively well. So generally speaking, we're expecting good stuff from Framber Valdez in this game. I don't think there's any reason to think he's, going to have some terrible outing. He's pitching at home against a team he's had some success against. Obviously, nerves and stuff like that can be a consideration here in a playoff game, but generally speaking, I think we can expect Valdez to have a pretty good time out there, and if he doesn't, we have to feel pretty confident in that Houston bullpen, guys. I mean, they finished up the season a much better bullpen than they were in the early goings, finishing things off with a 3.66 bullpen ERA, but that doesn't even really tell the whole story, guys. Down the stretch, this bullpen was absolutely lights out, and whenever Valdez does eventually come out of this game, I don't think there's any big reason to expect them to struggle against a team like the Tigers. This bullpen seems ready to go, absolutely ready to go out there. So expecting to see good stuff from them, no doubt about it. In terms of their offense, they came down the stretch here with kind of a troubling situation. Probably their best hitter, Alvarez, was missing time there with an injury, and that is a big, big deal. You cannot, well, you can, but you really don't want to have your best hitter out there to start an important playoff series or any series, really. That knee issue, he's going to do some hitting and running there, and we kind of are leaning towards, if there's any way he can even theoretically go, the dude's going to be trying to be out there. I mean, they need him. His 308 batting average, his 35 home runs, they need him out there for this game. It's obviously very, very important. We haven't seen him play since the 22nd, and he had 2 hits in that game against the Angels. So yeah, Alvarez has been a monster this season. It's technically day-to-day. I do theoretically expect him to play in this one, but we probably won't actually know until very, very close to game time there, which is kind of irritating, kind of tough not knowing knowing that leading into this game. But generally speaking, this season, Houston's been a pretty good offensive team. They've been one of the top 2, 3, maybe 4 batting average teams in the majors all season long. A 262 batting average on the season. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. They're easily top 10 in all the other major categories. I guess they finished things up 11th in runs, but this has been a very, very good hitting team all season long. Absolutely no doubt about that. They finished the season up with a plus 91 run differential, so that's very, very good news. This has just been a good team. Very, very solid. Made a big comeback in obviously not the toughest division out there in the AL West, but really, guys, I think we can expect to see pretty good things from the Astros hitters in this game, despite the fact they're going up against one of the best pitchers in baseball, although it's somebody that they've had some success against this season. So looking at the numbers for this game, we've got the Tigers at plus 130. We've got the Astros at minus 148. We've got an over-under of 6.5 in this game. Those low playoff totals, guys. Detroit, they are 43-38 on the road this year. Houston is 46-35 at home. So definitely being at home, a significant advantage for Houston. No doubt about that. In terms of the over-under, Detroit, they're a kind of significant over team on the road, with Houston being a small under team at home. In terms of the over-under for this game, guys, I would tend to lean a little bit towards the under. I know 6.5, not a very big number, but we got 2 pretty good pitching staffs out there, guys. But generally speaking, the over-under, not my favorite play. And you could even theoretically talk me into the over. In terms of the side, I'm leaning towards the Astros here at minus 148. I think Skubal, not the best history here against Houston. I know that's a bit rough. You would think he'd come out and have a good outing, but man, this just isn't a team that he's really had that much success against. And yeah, I mean, Valdez has been very good, and whenever he comes out of the game, we really trust that Astros bullpen. Not like we hate the Tigers bullpen. Don't get me wrong, they're a good bullpen as well, but generally speaking, guys, I'm leaning towards the Houston Astros in this game at minus 148, and the over-under, really not much of a lean on that one, to be honest, but I do think we see the Astros find a way to get the job done here in game 1. And in terms of some props for this game, guys, I know this is going to sound a little bit crazy potentially, and these props are just very, very small leans. My main lean on this game is going to be the Astros at minus 148. I think they find a way to win this game, but you definitely want to look at some props here on a short slate, and I think there's some reason to look at taking yes run first inning in this game at plus 135. That's a very, very reasonable price. I know we've got 2 good starters out there on the mound. The Tigers offense isn't the best, but I think there's a chance the Astros could get a run on the board here very, very early. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but I think all the public money is probably going to be on no run first inning here in basically all of these playoff games, and I guess I can't really blame him too much. But Skubal doesn't have the best history here against the Astros, and I don't think Valdez is, the super lights out guy. I think there's, an outside chance we could see either team put up a run here in the first inning. I also think, guys, there's some interesting stuff here on the Astros. I think they're going to have more success than guys expect against Skubal, and the Astros being the first team to score, you can get that at minus 105. I think that's fairly reasonable as well. I think there's a decent chance and they're the better offensive team by a landslide margin. So despite Detroit obviously being the first team hitting, I think the Astros to score the first run in this game is pretty reasonable value as well. And I also think you could talk me into the Astros team over of 3.5. If you take the Astros over 3.5 total runs in this game, you can get them at plus 105. That seems very reasonable to me as well. I'm kind of banking on the Astros to be the team that gets on the board in this game. So that's all my leans for this one, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the Kansas City Royals going on the road here to take on the Baltimore Orioles. Pretty exciting playoff series here. Exciting stuff for Kansas City to even make it into the playoffs. It was looking a bit sketch there down the stretch, but they ended up making it in there with their 86-76 season record. Pretty okay stuff. It seemed like they were going to have a chance there to challenge for the AL Central, but that kind of fell apart down the stretch as the offense abandoned them. They're going to be hitting the ball in this game to Cole Rangans. He's 11-9 this season with a 3.14 ERA. His last start was against the Nationals. He was very, very good out there, and he's been very, very good over his last 4 outings. They've got to be a little bit happy they're not facing the Houston Astros, a team that he really struggled against back on the 31st of the August, but still very much expecting decent stuff from Rangans, or at least the Royals are. We'll see how he does in this game, generally speaking. But over the course of the season, I mean, he's the 5th highest strikeout guy in the majors. That ERA has him 12th in the MLB. Very, very good stuff, and we obviously want to look and see what he's done against the Baltimore Orioles this season. Unfortunately, guys, it's very, very early season stuff. He hasn't faced Baltimore since April, and we've got 2 very different starts, guys. Back on April 20th, he only went 1 2/3 innings, gave up 9 hits and 7 earned runs, got absolutely destroyed by Baltimore in that game. So a terrible start there. But prior to that, back on the 3rd of April, he went 6 1/3 innings, gave up only a single hit, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, no runs against Baltimore. So one obviously horrendous start, one very good start, and they were so long ago, guys. Unfortunately for us, there's not a whole lot we can take from those games. We more have to look at what he's done recently. It's been very good. I mean, he had a good start against the Yankees, a very good start against Detroit. This dude has been throwing the ball well, so we'll see what he can do here against Baltimore, a team that he's got some mixed history against earlier in the season. But generally speaking, I don't think there's any reason to think Rangans is going to get absolutely destroyed by Baltimore. So we'll have to take a look and see, watch what he does out here. The problem for the Royals kind of this season and definitely in the playoffs here could be their bullpen. They're not that great this season. They were better down the stretch, getting down to a 4.13 bullpen ERA on the season, but overall this year, this has not been a bullpen that I've had the most faith in. So Rangans, I mean, he's a guy that goes 6, maybe 7 innings. So I don't think we'll see him go deeper than that. And then you're going to get, 3 probably innings, something like 3 innings to have that Royals bullpen out there. That gets a little bit problematic, could get pretty sketchy pretty fast. So we'll see what happens with the bullpen. I'm expecting mixed results from this Royals bullpen. Absolutely no doubt about that. Even if Rangans does good, we still have to outlast that bullpen. And guys, on top of the bullpen issues, this team struggled hitting the ball down the stretch. Over the course of the season, they had some very high highs, but also some very low lows, finishing things up with a plus 91 run differential. That's great. That's fantastic. But it wasn't an offense that you could really count on in terms of consistency. Down the stretch here, they played a 3-game series against Atlanta. They only won 1 game out of that series. They scored 4, 1, and 0 runs over those 3 games. Pretty weak stuff. They didn't have the best offensive series even at Washington in the series before that. They were horrendous, scoring only 1 run over 3 games against the Giants. This is just not a team that comes into this game swinging very hot bats. It's been a bit rough out there, and over the course of the season, they did finish things up 10th in batting average, but this is a team that was as high as they were looking like a top 5, at their best. This is easily a top 5 offense in the major leagues. And guys, that was not looking like the case over their last, I would say probably 20 games, something like that. It's been a bit rough. So we'll see if they can pull something together here at the plate. They've got some really good hitters. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. has been an absolute monster. We've seen good stuff from Salvador Perez at different points this season, but yeah, down the stretch here, this was not a very strong offensive team, and kind of a similar situation for their opponent in this game, the Baltimore Orioles, who come into this one. They did win their last 3 games of the season. They were fighting it out there with the Yankees in the AL East. The Orioles finished things up 91 and 71 on the season, so 20 games over 500, but man, this was easily looking like a team that was going to win over 100 games there in the early goings because that offense was looking absolutely insane. But in this game, guys, they're handing the ball to Corbin Burnes, who comes into this game 15-9 on the season with a 2.92 ERA. 181 strikeouts on the season has him top 20 in the majors, so not really insane numbers out there, but he's a guy that's been very good down the stretch. He had kind of a very much up, then down in the middle of the season, then back up here at the end. His last start, coming into this game was back on the 25th at Yankee Stadium. He went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, and only a single earned run while striking out 9. So very solid stuff there. 2 great outings against Detroit, which, good outings against a playoff team. Definitely something you want to take into consideration. This season going up against the Royals is obviously something we're going to want to look at in this matchup. Unfortunately, once again, guys, we've got a guy that went against the Orioles all the way back in April, and he had 2 decent but not elite starts. I mean, it was so long ago, there's only so much we can take from that, but back on 420, 5 2/3 innings, gave up 3 earned runs on 4 hits and a 9-7 Orioles win. And then before that, back on the 3rd of April, 5 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 2 earned runs in a 4-3 win there for Baltimore. So yeah, I mean, good results technically, but maybe not the sharpest, most dominant stuff, although I would say he's looking great coming into this game. So we'll see what we get from Corbin Burnes. If you wanted to take a look at some strikeout overs, those could make some sense for this one for sure for him. I mean, the dude has been piling up the strikeouts here coming into this game. So we'll see if that can continue for him. The question for this team really in terms of their pitching staff is that bullpen. A 4.22 bullpen ERA has them easily in the bottom 10 in the majors this season. They've been maybe a hair better here leading up to the playoffs, but this has generally speaking not been a bullpen you could have a whole lot of faith in. Definitely a bullpen that seemed to get worse over the course of the season instead of better, and maybe that slight uptick here at the end of the year is, nice, but I don't think this is really a bullpen that you can fully trust. And while Burns can go like 7 innings in a game, 7 innings at playoff intensity seems like kind of a big ask. Although he's going up against the Royals, a team that I could easily see having, games in the playoffs where they get shut out. So we'll see what happens here with Burns on the mound. We'll see what happens with that Baltimore bullpen. One of those things I have faith in. One of them I absolutely do not have that much faith in. So we'll see what happens there. Early in the season, this was a team, and even up to the middle of the season, this was a team that could count on their offense to bail out their pitching staff pretty much on a nightly basis. You were seeing the Orioles just be one of the craziest power hitting teams in recent memory, guys. Unfortunately, at the end of the season, things tailed off a little bit. They did look good over their last 3 games, scoring 6, 9, and 7 runs at the Minnesota Twins. So very, very good stuff there. They come into this, series swinging some relatively hot bats. And over the course of the year, they've put up great numbers. I mean, they're 4th in runs scored this season, 7th in batting average, down to 3rd in slugging percentage, though. Those slugging numbers definitely taking a bit of a dive. They finished the year with a plus 87 scoring differential, so, not terrible there, obviously, either. They've got a solid roster, but maybe a little bit of a lack of experience here. We'll see how that goes here in the playoffs. Obviously, going up against elite pitching, not going to get any easier to hit the ball here in the playoffs. But generally speaking, over the course of the season, this has been one of the best offensive teams in the majors. We'll see if their hot hitting here down the stretch can carry over to the postseason. So looking at the numbers for this game, we've got the Royals at plus 136, the Orioles at minus 150. We've got an over-under of 7 in this game. Kansas City is 41-40 on the road coming into this one. Baltimore 44-37 at home. We've got some mixed trends here towards the over-under. Kansas City 46-31-4 to the under on the road, and Baltimore a significant over team at home, 32-6 to the over at home. In general in this game, guys, I'm not going to be able to go with the Kansas City Royals here. I'm going to be siding with the favorite in this game. I like the Orioles at minus 150. I think they find a way to get the job done here with Corbin Burns on the mound. I don't think the hot hitting of the Royals is going to translate over here into the playoffs going against Burns. I think he's going to have a pretty good day. I am a bit worried about both teams' bullpens, so in terms of the over-under, you could definitely talk me into an over 7 in this one. The concern with that is, despite both bullpens being bad, the Royals, generally speaking, have not hit the ball that great down the stretch, with the exception of their last couple series. So maybe I'm a little bit incorrect on that. Maybe the over is totally fine. So we'll have to see, guys. But overall, I do think Baltimore at minus 150 and over 7 are the best plays in this one. And in terms of the props for this game, now keep in mind, these are just props. These are just kind of, I'm not going to say quite for fun bets, but these are not, my heaviest confidence plays. I do like the yes run first inning in this game. I think there's a decent, possibility that could hit. And at plus 115, you're getting a pretty good price. So I think taking yes run first inning in this one could be relatively reasonable. I also think taking the Baltimore Orioles as the first team to score is pretty good as well. At minus 105, that seems very reasonable to me. They're definitely the better hitting team overall. And while the Royals come into this one swinging some hot bats, I think Corbin Burns has the correct recipe to make that not happen. And we did see Rangans have some trouble against Baltimore early in the season. I also like the over on Baltimore's total runs scored at over 3.5. That's minus 120. I think that's very good. That's probably my favorite play in this game, generally speaking. In terms of the prop side, I do think taking Baltimore to put up some runs in this game is some pretty solid value. An odd player prop that I actually like for this game, I think Rangans over 5.5 strikeouts at minus 140 is fairly reasonable. We all know that this Baltimore squad is one that is going to be going for broke up there at the plate. They either want to hit a home run or strike out, generally speaking. So I do think we could see Rangans pile up some strikeouts here. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. But that's all we've got for this game, guys. So, hey guys, jumping in here with a quick ad break. First of all, this is a great time to sign up at stumpthespread.com. Signing up for a premium membership gets you access to our entire team of cappers covering MLB, NCAA football, UFC, and the NFL. If you just want to test out the service, a great way to do that is by joining our free email list, which will get you the occasional occasionally free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Just go ahead and click that link in the description. It'll take you right over to stumpthespread.com. Also, guys, just to clarify some of the questions we've been getting in the emails and in the comments, I am not the MLB capper for stumpthespread.com. These YouTube picks are obviously free to everyone and are just what I am seeing out there. We have an expert with nearly 15 years of experience that covers MLB and has a very strong algorithm and some very cool tools that he uses to bring our premium members the best picks possible. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new. Now back to the games. Moving right along, we're going to look at the New York Mets coming into this game, going up against the Milwaukee Brewers in a crazy National League situation there down the stretch, with the Mets and the Atlanta Braves and the Diamondbacks all being involved in that crazy situation. We did see the most likely outcome there with them earning a split. Atlanta somehow managing to lose that first game despite being up 3-0 going into the 8th inning, and we see the Braves come through and win the second game. So the Diamondbacks are going to be watching this one from home, which has to feel very tough, and kind of disappointing to see the best offensive team in the majors be watching this game and not out there swinging those bats. But the Mets come into this one probably a little bit emotionally drained from yesterday, guys. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be too bad since they did win game 1 and knew they were going to be in, but yeah, a little bit rough out there for sure. I mean, playing 2 games, then traveling to Milwaukee, and now they're going to play a game the very next day. So probably some fatigue issues there for the Mets. They're going to be giving the ball to Luis Severino in this game. He finished his season up 11-7 on the year, 3.91 ERA. Not a huge strikeout guy either, but he had some pretty good outings this year, but down the stretch, a bit questionable. He's given up at least 3 runs over his last 3 games, at least 3 earned runs over his last 3 games. His last time out, he had a rough time at Atlanta, 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs allowed in that game. He gave a home run in that one against Atlanta. So obviously not somebody that comes into this playoff series throwing the ball his best, which is definitely something of a concern. The last time he went up against the Milwaukee Brewers was his first game of the season, so we really can't take that too much into account. He did get shelled there back on 3/30, so that's a little bit of a concern for sure, but that's so long ago, can't be too swayed by that information, but it's definitely going to be back there in the back of our minds. We're not, completely throwing that out. Definitely something to keep, keep an eye on, no doubt about that. And he also, coming into this game, not looking the best that he's looked this season. All significant reason for concern. And, he's coming off of a 4-inning appearance. That's a little bit problematic. And if he can't go deep into this game, which he's definitely capable of going 6 or 7 innings, don't get me wrong, but maybe not the way he's thrown the ball lately, we're going to see a big dose of that Mets bullpen, which has not been one of their strengths this season, a 4.04 bullpen ERA over the course of the year. Obviously not ideal, and they didn't necessarily come into this game. The bullpen hasn't been insanely good over their last 10 or 20 or so games. So definitely a few question marks there for the pitching staff for the Mets. So gonna be aware of that for sure looking at this one. And the offense for the Mets looked great there in game 1, scoring 8 runs at Atlanta yesterday. So that's cool, but they got shut out in game 2. Not the best look, but obviously no reason to be trying that hard. They didn't even play their whole roster, so yeah, probably didn't make the Diamondbacks or their fans feel that great, but they got the job done in game 1. They earned the right to rest a little bit, and over the course of the year, guys, they haven't been a terrible offense, but I wouldn't say they've necessarily been elite. They've kind of hovered around that top 10 mark. They're 7th in runs scored this season, 12th in batting average, batting .246 as a team. They're a top 10 on base percentage team, which is nice. They're barely a top 10 slugging percentage team. We've seen guys like Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor do good things for this lineup this season, and I mean, over the course of the year, they did finish things up with a positive scoring differential, plus 71. Not incredible, obviously, but not the end of the world, so got to give them a little bit of credit there. So we'll see what they can do going up against the Milwaukee Brewers, who come into this game. They've probably had the easiest time, the most time to rest here of basically any playoff team this season. I mean, yeah, they finished tops in the NL Central, 93-69 on the year, 10-game cushion over the Cardinals and the Cubs, and that was a 10-game cushion that existed for, it felt like, the majority of the season. So the Brewers definitely come into this game well rested. They're going to be handing the ball to Freddie Peralta, who he's 11-9 on the season with a 3.68 ERA. He was supposed to be their ace, and he looked kind of ace-like at different points this season, but definitely not somebody that was just a lockdown starter all year. I mean, when you're tied for 30th in ERA and tied for 34th in win-loss record, like, just not somebody that's been insanely dominant, and he had to make a lot of starts against other teams in the NL Central. Not really the toughest division out there. So yeah, looking at how he's done recently, his last 3 starts were all very good, including a good start at Arizona and a good start against the Phillies. So gotta give the guy his props. He's thrown the ball well coming into this series. In terms of his numbers this season against the New York Mets, interestingly enough, he hasn't faced them since the very beginning of the season either. So not a ton we can draw from that, although we have to at least keep in the back of our mind that he had a dominant 6-inning performance, going 6 innings, giving up only a single hit, a single earned run. It was a home run, and striking out 8 in a 3-1 win for Milwaukee. So yeah, he looked good in that one. Generally speaking, I think we can expect decent stuff from him here pitching at home, which also has to help a bit. So we'll see what we get from Freddie Peralta. But even if we have a bad start there from Peralta, we have the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen there to back him up, guys. And they've been fantastic. A 3.11 bullpen ERA. They finished things up second in the majors behind only Cleveland this season in terms of bullpen numbers. This pen has been absolutely lights out all season long. Really one of the primary strengths of this team. The starting pitching's been a little bit suspect, but man, that bullpen has been absolutely elite. And the offense hasn't been too far behind either, guys. We've seen good stuff from this team at the plate. They did get shut out in their last game of the season going up against the Mets, so that's something to take into consideration, but it wasn't against Severino, so, not a big deal there. They finished the year 6th in runs scored, 8th in batting average, 4th in on-base percentage. Like, this is a very good offensive team. Absolutely no doubt about that, guys. They are a team that can definitely hit the ball. I mean, they finished up the season with a plus 136 scoring differential. That was second best there in the National League, so very good stuff there. Yeah, trailing only the Yankees and the Dodgers this season in scoring differential. So an elite offensive team, no doubt about that, and we'll see what they can do here going up against the Mets. I'm expecting good things generally from Milwaukee, and looking at the numbers for this game, we've got the Mets at plus 120, the Brewers at minus 135. We've got an over-under of 7.5 in this game. The Mets are 42-38 on the road this season. Milwaukee is 47-34 at home. So yeah, that's pretty solid. That's a good home record, no doubt about that. We've got both teams showing trends towards the over here. The Mets are 39-36-5 to the over on the road, and Milwaukee 41-32-8 to the over at home. So over 7.5 does certainly feel live to me in this game. The problem with that one kind of is the Mets' possible, fatigue issues, and the Mets at plus 120, the Brewers at minus 135, guys. In terms of the side in this one, I'm definitely going to be leaning towards the home team that's not going to be tired after just playing a doubleheader yesterday. I think we're going to see Milwaukee do well in this game. I think we're going to see a good start there from Freddie Peralta. The Brewers at minus 135, one of my favorite sides today, guys. I think this one is definitely going in the pinned comment. In terms of the over-under, if you wanted to take a slight look there towards the over, that can make some sense to me as well, guys. I don't think that's going to be one of my favorite plays. I don't think that's going in the pinned comment, but I definitely think we could see some offense in this game, at least from the Brewers, and that's those are my main leans on the side and the over-under. In terms of some game props for this one, guys, I do think, funnily enough, that no run first inning could be fairly live in this game. I do think the Brewers could be a little bit rusty, having not been super locked in. So I think the first inning, maybe 2, we could see them not look their best up there at the plate, and the Mets are going to be exhausted. I definitely expect them not to score here in the first inning. So at minus 140, obviously it's not a bet that I'm in love with, but I think it's worth maybe a small look if you're, dying to gamble there on some sort of no run first inning. In terms of another prop, guys, Milwaukee to be the first team to score at plus 110. I love that. In terms of a prop that could theoretically end up in the pinned comment, it would be this one. I think they'll definitely be the team to take the lead in this game, to get on the board first. I think we're going to see good stuff from Milwaukee at the plate in this game, generally speaking, even if they do get off to that slightly rusty start like I was talking about. Also, guys, I think Milwaukee over 3.5 runs in this game is extremely live at minus 130. I think we're going to see them score some runs in this game. I think they're going to be the team that wins this game, so taking them to also get their over on total runs. I mean, they only got to get to 4. That does not seem too crazy at all for me going up against Severino and that Mets bullpen. Last but not least, guys, we're looking at the Atlanta Braves going on the road here to take on the San Diego Padres. Atlanta obviously being part of that whole debacle there. They had a terrible bullpen collapse yesterday. Not not something you expect to see from Atlanta there in game one, and losing that game very, very rough. But they followed it up. I mean, not against the full strength Mets, but they followed it up with the 3-0 win there in game two to punch their ticket into the postseason and deny the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that had to feel a little bit rough for Arizona. Obviously, it's got to feel a little bit rough for Atlanta, having to play 2 games there, playing a doubleheader, and now having to, travel to San Diego to play this game. Going to be a little bit rough. We also have a very unsettled pitching situation for them. Chris Sale, who, was supposed to be their lights out guy there for game 2, was dealing with back spasms and was unable to go in that game. So there's a very real chance that we do not see him pitch here in this game. The latest that we're hearing right now at night here of, the recording of this is that we will not see Sale pitch here. I mean, hopefully, the idea is that he'll be available to pitch in this series, but it sounds like what we're seeing out there, what we're hearing out there, apparently he's unlikely to pitch here in game 1. So rough stuff out there. I guess I don't blame him too much for holding him out, especially, if you're not at 100%, if your back's messed up, like, there's going to be very little he could do. So we technically do not have a confirmed starter right now for the Atlanta Braves, which is a bit rough, kind of inconvenient. So keep an eye on that pinned comment. We may be adding this one in later once we see who they're going to actually start. But this team has to be a little bit drained. The bullpen definitely has to be a little bit depleted there after playing that doubleheader and having to be in desperation mode there in game 2. So not a whole ton we can say about the Atlanta pitching staff. Over the course of the season, their bullpen has been very good, so that's something to take into consideration, no doubt about it. But we will we'll see. You're gonna have to check back on that pinned comment to see what's going on here with the Atlanta Braves pitching situation. But in terms of their offense, they did put up 7 runs in game 1 of that doubleheader against the Mets, 3 runs in the second game. So you could say they're swinging the bats relatively well coming into this one. They finished the season up a fairly average offense, in terms of season long numbers. 15th in runs scored, 15th in batting average, 16th in on base percentage. So not horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely not an offensive powerhouse. They finished the season up at plus 97 in terms of the run differential. So that's nice for them. That's good. It wasn't enough for them to keep pace with the Phillies there, obviously in the NL East, but definitely not a horrible hitting team. They do depend a little bit heavily on Marcell Ozuna. That's a bit of a concern, but the dude's been a monster. He's got some experience under his belt. I don't think there's any reason to think he's going to just, his production's going to fall off of a cliff here in the playoffs, especially going up against a team like the Padres. That's maybe not the toughest pitching staff out there. The Padres come into this game, guys. They ended up finishing things off second there in the NL West. They gave the Dodgers a bit of a run for their money there down the stretch, but couldn't quite finish it off there in that 3-game series where they only won 1 out of 3 against the Dodgers. And all 3 of those games, they definitely were in winning positions at different points, but couldn't figure it out there all the way. But they can't be too upset here, playing in the playoffs at home in the first round there. They're going to be handing the ball to Michael King, who is 13-9 on the season with a 2.95 ERA. He was top 10 in strikeouts this season as well, so positive stuff for him, no doubt about it. He comes into this game fresh off of a very good start against the Dodgers. He was the guy that started in the game in that series that they won. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, only 2 earned runs over his last 5 starts. He's been very solid in all of them, so no major problems there. In terms of his history this season against the Atlanta Braves, interestingly enough, guys, he has not faced the Braves this season. So I would say that's probably a little bit of an advantage to him. No history there for those hitters against him. So that's got to be a little bit nice. And generally speaking, I'm expecting good things from Michael King in this game. And they're going to need good stuff from him because over the course of the season, there have been some issues with that Padres bullpen. They were actually really bad at the beginning of the year, like a significant weakness of this team, but they kind of reshaped it, got into the top half of the league here with a 3.78 bullpen ERA over the course of the season. So definitely not a team that I think is going to struggle too mightily there coming out of the bullpen. Whenever Michael King comes out of this game, he's a guy, he could go up to 7 innings, but I could also see him pitching 5 solid ones and ending up out of this game. But the bullpen should be rested and ready to go there for the Padres. So we'll see what they get from their offense. They've been a very good offensive team this season, easily top 10. They're actually the top batting average team in the majors, batting .263 as a squad. They're 8th in runs scored this season, 6th in on-base percentage. Over the course of the year, guys, they posted a plus 91 scoring differential, so nothing wrong with that. And they've got some heavy hitters in there. I mean, yeah, Machado's had a very good season. Fernando Tatis has come back recently, and he's looked pretty decent. Like, This is a very, very good team. They put up good power numbers, all that kind of stuff. They've scored 2, 5, 5, 2, 3, and 4 runs over their last few games, but they've been playing playoff baseball for at least their last 6 games. So this is a team that should be very, very ready to go for this one. And looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we've got the Atlanta Braves with no confirmed starter at plus 130. We've got the Padres with a confirmed starter at minus 150. We've got an over-under of 7 out there. The Braves are 43 and 38 on the road. The Padres are 45 and 35 at home. We've got mixed trends towards the over-under, with Atlanta being a big under team on the road and the Padres being a big over team at home. This is a little bit tougher of a game, guys, and obviously nothing's going in the pinned comment from this one until we find out who's going to be starting for Atlanta. But if we end up with a starter we don't like, very, very likely to be on the Padres at minus 150 in this game. We may end up on this. We may end up jumping on this before there's a confirmed starter. The thing that scares me is what if they put Sale on the mound and the dude is somehow actually fine after having back spasms? That would be what would really scare us off. So definitely leaning towards the Padres. In terms of the over-under, I'm leaning a bit towards the under here. I don't think we're going to see much offense there from Atlanta. They've got to be pretty exhausted after playing 2 games yesterday and having to travel. So we'll see how that goes, but leaning towards the under, leaning towards the Padres. In terms of props for this game, these are not big leans at all, guys. I do think no run first inning at minus 150, obviously very expensive, but I do think we're very likely to have no run scored in the first inning of this game. I'd like the Padres to be the first team to score in this one. That's at even odds, so I think that's definitely one you want to jump on as soon as we find out that Chris Sale is not going to be the starter for this game. I also think taking the Padres at over 3.5 total runs at minus 125 is very reasonable. I think they're going to be the team that wins this game. Them getting to 4 runs against a tired bullpen and just a tired team in general doesn't sound too crazy to me either. So that's all we've got for this one, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.